it!
It's time for Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt. Todd Marquardt, attorney at law in Texas. If you're a millionaire or a thousandaire, Talk Law Radio is now on the air. Call in with your business law question, your elder law question, veteran aid, Medicaid, build a business to get paid. 210-308-8867. Or ask a question online at marquardtlawfirm.com. That's MARQUARDT lawfirm.com. And now it's Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt.
Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt on the radio, on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on talklawradio.com. Today it's just me and Lexi Law Dog. I'm going to be talking about the San Antonio race for mayor, the election that's coming up soon. Actually, Tuesday begins early voting, April 22nd through the 29th, and then voting day is going to be May 3rd. So we're talking about the people that are running to be the next mayor of San Antonio. Also, I'm going to be talking about school choice and vouchers, and you can call in and tell me your opinion about school choice or school vouchers. Just call 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. Today is Saturday, April 19th, 2025. I'm also going to be talking about a well-known San Antonio man named Ron Herman and estate planning, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. A lawsuit was filed, and San Antonio Express News is covering the story, and so I'm going to be talking about the family's dirty laundry that's being aired in the media. So you know that Marquardt Law Firm sponsors our show, and Marquardt Law Firm focuses on business and estate law, including last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans. Also, new businesses and old businesses which might have issues with corporations, contracts, LLCs, and family limited partnerships. Also, we can represent those who are facing problems from lack of planning in district court, county court, or probate court. Check out our blog at marquardtlawfirm.com for stories and information about different aspects of business law, estate planning law, probate, and guardianship. Before we get started talking about the law, let's begin with prayer. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the gifts and blessings that you give to us. Please forgive us for our sins, for our mistakes, for doing the wrong thing or failing to follow your will. Please help me give good information about the San Antonio mayor race, school choice, and estate planning for blended families today. Help us to do everything we do for the good of your people, for our own good, and for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Now it's time to discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. You see, in the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And now we have lawmakers in municipal, state, and federal legislatures that won't stop creating new laws that impact you without you knowing it. So I'm here to tell you about those legal issue blind spots. And the first one is the mayor, the election. Does it matter to you who the mayor is of the city of San Antonio? Does it matter to you what their policies are? Does it matter to you what their education, background, and experience is? Give me a call right now at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. Does it matter to you if they tear down the Texas Pavilion, the former home for the Institute of Cultures in San Antonio? Does it matter to you if they replace it with another stadium for the Spurs or another stadium for the San Antonio Missions baseball team? Would you like to see all of these athletic venues in one spot downtown? Do you think that will create prosperity in San Antonio? Or do you think that the mayor should focus on other things like police and crime and roads and housing. Well, I've been interviewing a lot of the candidates for mayor. I'd like to interview all of them. Some of them are invisible because I can't find their contact information online. And some of them have not yet accepted my invitation to be a guest on the show. But I'll sort of share with you some of the episodes that I have had. And let's see here. Trying to find my notes. I'll let you know why I've been talking to them and the questions I've been answering. But I'm encouraging you to search podcasts everywhere for Talk Law Radio, San Antonio Mayor, and YouTube. Just search for Talk Law Radio and find the Lady Justice and the red, white, and blue logo, and you'll see some recent episodes there, my interviews of people that are running to be elected mayor in the city of San Antonio, because this is bona fide news with a value designed to inform the public and not just further any one candidate's campaign. The candidates for mayor shared their experience and background as well as the policies for San Antonio, how they make decisions, what their guiding principles are, how they're different from the other candidates, and what they want their legacy to have been for San Antonio if they're elected mayor. Is there anything else you want to know about these people that are running for mayor? Well, be sure to vote early if you want to, Tuesday, April 22nd through the 29th, or on Election Day, which is May 3rd. I've been doing this for about a month now. Last March 15th, I had Michael Samaniego, Jade McCullough, and Christopher Reyes on the show. March 16th, I had Robert Melvin. March 23rd, I had Dr. Tim Wesley. March 29th, I had Santos Alvarado. March 30th, I had John Courage and James J. Melvin. April 6th, I had Gina Ortiz-Jones. And tomorrow at 4:30 in the afternoon, you can listen to 9:30 a.m. The Answer. I'll be interviewing Rolando Pablos and Dr. Adriana Rocha Garcia. So tune in tomorrow at 4:30 in the afternoon on 9:30 a.m. The Answer Radio. So this is where you get to air your voice. Talk to me on the radio right now, Saturday, April 19th, 2025, about what concerns you about who the next mayor is going to be. We're not just talking about the election, we're talking about the issues that are going on in the city of San Antonio right now, from public safety to affordable housing, education, transportation. What's on your mind when you think about casting your vote? Call 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867, or post a comment on Facebook Live. We're live on Facebook right now. If you want to see my smiling face, cheese, then you can post a comment there, or you can call the radio station. Because the elections aren't just about the candidates. Elections are about us, the people. What do we want for our neighborhoods? What kind of leadership do we need to tackle the challenges that we face? I want to hear from you today. What's one issue you think the next mayor must absolutely prioritize? Is it fixing potholes, improving public transit, or maybe creating more green spaces? Well, tune in, let me know. And if you know a candidate that wants to be on the show, let me know that also, because I'm trying to get a hold of them, trying to fit it into their busy schedule when they could talk to me about the issues and their background. If they want you to know who they are, they need to be on this show so that they can get their message out, so that you know what the differences between the candidates are. So the phone lines are open now, 210-308-8867, Saturday, April 19th, 2025. Give me a call and we'll talk about what's important to you for the race for mayor. Well, I'm going to have to take a break, but stay tuned. After the break, hopefully we'll have a conversation with somebody who's listening. We're talking about the race for mayor, then we'll be talking about school choice, school vouchers, and estate planning for blended families. Stay right there. Be right back.
Don't wait until it's too late. Spring is here and it's the perfect time to review and update your last will or living trust. Have you recently moved, have changes in your health, or had a change in your family? If so, your current documents may be outdated and ineffective. Don't risk your wishes not being protected. At Marquardt Law Firm, our experienced attorneys can help you update your documents and ensure your future is secure. Call today at 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278 or visit marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt, on the radio, on podcasts everywhere, on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on talklawradio.com. I was just talking about the mayor's race and how I've been interviewing some of the candidates. And candidate for mayor Clayton Perry called in and said that he did want to set something up so that he could be interviewed, so that you can get to know him a little bit before you decide to vote Tuesday, April 22nd through the 29th, or on May 3rd. Now I'd like to switch gears a little bit and start talking about the school choice, school vouchers issue. What do you think about that? The Texas legislature has passed a couple of bills. Senate Bill 2 has passed both the House and the Senate. I believe that House Bill 2 has only passed the House. And so I'll try and tell you what I know about those two bills. But I also want to hear from you about what you think about school choice. Is this the worst idea ever, or is this the best idea ever? I was scrolling through X, formerly known as Twitter, to find some opinions. And of course, that's the platform where you get to see the most extreme opinions. So I'll share some of those with you. Unless you want to talk to me about school choice right now, Saturday, April 19th, 2025, call 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867, or post a comment on the Talk Law Radio page. We're live on Facebook right now. So we're going to be talking, this is a legal issue blind spot, school choice, because the way that schools are funded in Texas are partially through the property taxes, and everybody pays property taxes one way or another. Even if you're renting, part of the money that you pay for rent, the landlord is going to use to pay the property taxes on the property. And so if property taxes were lower, everybody would save money, including presumably those people that are paying rent. And so the buzz right now is all about school choice, because the governor and the representatives in Texas have been focusing on this like a laser this legislative session. It's the 89th legislative session. And people that have kids or grandkids, I'm sure that school is important to you. Whether you send your kids to public school or private school or charter school or homeschool, you're doing so for a reason, because that's where you think that your child is going to thrive, going to learn the most about math, reading, science, history. And so do you think the best forum for that is public school? Do you think it's a religious type school? Do you think it's a charter school with a different kind of a mission? Or do you think it's homeschool? Do you think you're the best teacher for your child? I've been reading Mahatma Gandhi's biography, and I'm in the part of his biography when he was talking about educating children. He lived in sort of this communal farm where there were kids that were outside of his family, and he made it his mission to teach them as well. And he focused on teaching character first. And he said if they can learn that, then they can learn other things as they get older. And so that was like a type of homeschool where he was educating other people. And he really felt that it was his duty and mission to do that. And I've had some friends over the years who have felt the same way, that homeschool was the best school. And I've had some friends, too, that wanted their kids to be educated at a church school. And I've had friends, too, that have had sent their kids to charter schools, which are paid for by the state, but some of them have strict entrance exams and qualifications to get in. And then there's, of course, public school. Probably most people do it that way. But do you think that the state of Texas should be setting aside public money to pay for some people to send their kids to private schools? Call me. Talk to me. Some people argue that school choice is a game changer for families, empowering them to find the perfect fit for their kids and their unique situations, fostering healthy competition among schools. Of course, other people say that when you take away funding from the public school and give it to a private school, that you're hurting the public schools. It's my understanding that the way the governor and the legislature are trying to set this up for Texas this year is that it's a both-and proposition, that public schools are going to be getting more money, teachers are going to be paid higher salaries, and they're going to be setting aside some money for educational savings accounts so that people with low income or disabilities can go to private schools too, have the opportunity to go to those schools. So I have some other questions for you. Call me at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. Have you or your family benefited from school choice or a voucher program? Or do you plan to benefit from that through this program in the state of Texas? Do you think these programs strengthen or weaken public education in the long run? Or if you could design the educational system, what would it look like? Call me at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. It is Saturday, April 19th, 2025. So you have to call in now, because if you hear this on podcast and you call in, I'm not going to be there. So this is now Saturday morning. It's about 11:23. I'm going to tell you about some similarities and differences between House Bill 2 and Senate Bill 2. House Bill 2 is a public education and public finance bill with an emphasis on increased funding for schools. Senate Bill 2 establishes educational savings accounts to fund private schooling and homeschooling. You think that's a good idea, or do you think that's a bad idea? Some people on X, formerly known as Twitter, say that it's a way to help the rich get richer, to help them save money. It's for the elites. What would you say to that? Do you feel like that because you send your kids to a private school that you're somehow rich or that you're an elite? Let's talk about it. Call 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. House Bill 2 allocates over $8 billion for public education, including $3 billion per student funding and teacher pay raises, $1.5 billion for special education, and nearly $1 billion for additional funding. I read somewhere that this is coming from a surplus in the Texas budget. Is that what you heard? Call me at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. Senate Bill 2 is said to provide public funds for families to pay for private school tuition, homeschooling, and related expenses, including $10,000 per student annually for private tuition, $11,500 annually for students with disabilities, $2,000 for homeschooling students, or $2,500 for those homeschooling with disabilities. The funds are supposed to be managed through state-administered educational savings accounts, and some people say it protects private school autonomy by limiting state interference in the curriculum, admissions, or religious practices. So that there's a difference between the bills there. The Senate version has stronger language than the House version. How do you feel about school choice or school vouchers? Do you wish that your kids had the opportunity to attend a private school? Do you think that public schools are a den of drug dealers and troublemakers, and you wish that your kid could go to private school where discipline is more easily administered? Or do you think that public school offers the best education because the teachers are certified, because they have additional education requirements? Well, let's go to some of the opinions through X, formerly known as Twitter. Miss Darling says, let's be clear, school choice isn't about helping kids. It's about public funds feeding private networks, charter operators, tech vendors, real estate developers, lobbyist-backed nonprofits. This isn't reform, it's redistribution from classrooms to boardrooms. So you heard an opinion. Do you have an opposing opinion? Would you say that private school or school choice is going to help more kids? Or do you think that it's just to give more funds to public interest groups or lobbyist groups? Or do you think it's about enriching what this lady said, charter operators and tech vendors? Here's another one. Anan, a mouse, that's her handle on X, formerly known as Twitter. Today, property tax reform was an afterthought. You gave my property tax dollars to the wealthy so their kids can go to a private school that most kids can't even apply. So it's my understanding that the private schools don't have to compromise their admission standards. If somebody with low income can meet the admission requirements and standards to get in, then it's just a way to pay for that to help them be able to afford to attend that school. Of course, other people have an opposing view there. Here's another opinion. by someone called Burl Robertson. He says, let's make this clear. You fought for your donors and the elite. Just tell the truth. I already had mentioned that objection. Well, we've got to take another break, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion about the San Antonio race for mayor and school choice. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt, on the radio, on podcasts everywhere, on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on talklawradio.com. Today we're talking about the race for San Antonio mayor, issues in the community, and we're talking about school choice and school vouchers in Texas. I'd like to continue that conversation if you want to call in at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867 if you want to talk about who's running for mayor or what issues or policies you think should be prioritized, or if you want to talk about Project Marvel, the Spurs, or the Institute of Texan Cultures and the Texas Pavilion building. Call me at 210-308-8867. In the meantime, I'm going to start talking about a court case that's been filed against a local business here in San Antonio that was started and built by a man named Ron Herman. But because I'm licensed to practice law in Texas and the State Bar of Texas governs the attorney law license, I want to inform you about the law, but legal advice must be tailored to the specific circumstances of each case. And so don't take anything I say on the radio right now that's just general in nature and supposed to be educational as legal advice for your unique legal situation. You need to hire an attorney to do that, to give you specific legal advice. And of course, you know Marquardt Law Firm sponsors the show, and attorneys at Marquardt Law Firm focus on business and estate law. So I'm going to talk to you about what I read in the San Antonio Express News about Ron Herman. He's a longtime San Antonio businessman and rancher, and he built an empire for his family. But don't think that just because he had lots of money or lots of assets that you can't learn something from what's been published in the newspaper. And that takes me to another point where if you don't want your dirty laundry aired in the public forum, then you should really focus on how to reduce family conflict and maximize family harmony. I'm sure none of the people mentioned in this newspaper article want to be the focus of criticism and to have their good name dragged through the mud. But Ron Herman, so this is sort of like his legacy that I'm going to tell you about here. Some of his assets included Columbia Industry, once the world's largest maker of bowling balls, known for its innovative plastic Columbia 300 line of balls. Ron Herman also had Grady's Barbecue. It was a good place to go. I remember taking my mom and my grandmother and my family there back in the day. But I think all of their locations have closed. Ron Herman also co-founded Western Beverages liquor store chain, also known as WB Liquors. And he was a charitable person. He gave generously, and he's donated millions of dollars to San Antonio area nonprofits under the Herman Family Charitable Foundation and the Herman Zeller Foundation. From what I could discern from this newspaper article in the San Antonio Express News, Ron Herman had children from his first marriage, David, Karen, Carol, and Helen. And then he was married to Karen, and through his marriage with Karen, there was Emily and Austin. And so the reason this lawsuit is coming about is because Ron Herman, who I think is about 90 years old now, had passed on control of his assets to his son David, and Karen, the second wife, and Emily and Austin, children from the second marriage, have filed a lawsuit against David for mismanagement of assets. You'll have to look up the lawsuit to get all the details on that. Lawsuits are public, and so if they wanted to avoid conflict and preserve family harmony, they could have dealt with these issues outside of court, like through an mediator or through arbitration. But now that the lawsuit's public, the newspaper can publish what was in that lawsuit. And there's a lot of facts about the family and the assets that they have and the family members in that lawsuit petition. So this is part of the lesson that I want you to learn as you're doing your estate planning, is that estate planning begins when you're alive. Because at age 90, you might not want to be running things. You might not be good at running things. It may be difficult for you to run things the way that you used to run things. And so who are you going to put in charge of your affairs? And like I said before, this doesn't apply only to millionaires. It can apply to thousandaires too. That's a term I made up and coined, and that means anybody with less than $1 million is a thousandaire. You might have thousands in the bank, or tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands. You need to do planning too, because when you have less, every dollar matters more. And so you can't just throw it out the window or flush it down the toilet, because it means every dollar means more. And so, by the way, this lawsuit is going to be expensive for everybody to deal with, hiring lawyers and accountants and advisors to figure out whether the son that was handling operations, David Herman, did anything wrong. At this point, they're only allegations. And, of course, you have to have evidence and witnesses in court. And so that's going to be more people that are dragged into this saga. So the stepmother, Karen, alleges that David has failed to live up to his father's expectations and the example set by Mr. Herman. Says under David's leadership, various businesses, including Grady's Barbecue and the bowling ball manufacturing assets, had to be sold due to David's mismanagement of the assets. So that's not me saying that. I'm quoting from the newspaper article, which was quoting from the lawsuit. These are just allegations at this point. And David didn't respond to messages left by the San Antonio Express News. And so the stepmother and the step brothers and sisters want the court to appoint somebody other than David to wind up the affairs of some of the family businesses. And so Ron Herman, the patriarch of the family, is not a party to the lawsuit. And his 3 daughters from his first marriage aren't parties to the lawsuit, but their rights might be affected by the case. So I'm trying to help you just see through a real-world example what can happen with the affairs of somebody that's older or becoming disabled. And so it matters who you appoint to be your agent under power of attorney or successor trustee, because those are positions that can start taking action while you're alive. Or maybe David's acting as the manager of the family limited partnership. I'm not too sure about that. At some point, Ron Herman, who's 90, gave up control for the family businesses, collectively known in the complaint as Herman Enterprises, to David Herman. And so he's supposed to be managing the assets, the lawsuit alleges, in a way that's fair for the second wife and all of the kids. So we'll see what happens. What I could glean from this article is that some of the goals that Ron Herman may have had in mind when he was building up the assets and was for the next generation to make wise acquisitions and investments and to be fair and honest with all of the family. And so we're going to have to take a break. And after the break, I'm going to be talking about what lessons can we learn from Ron Herman's family saga that's being played out in the San Antonio Express News and other media outlets and in the new business court that's been established. What can we learn as people that might not be millionaires? What can we learn as thousandaires, those of us who have less than $1 million? Either that's thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. If it's less than $1 million, you're known as a thousandaire in my book. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Don't wait until it's too late. Spring is here and it's the perfect time to review and update your last will or living trust. Have you recently moved, have changes in your health, or had a change in your family? If so, your current documents may be outdated and ineffective. Don't risk your wishes not being protected. At Marquardt Law Firm, our experienced attorneys can help you update your documents and ensure your future is secure. Call today at 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278 or visit marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt, attorney in San Antonio, Texas, talking to you about hidden legal issue blind spots. And today I'm talking about the hidden legal issue blind spot of estate planning for blended families. So when I say blended family, I want you to imagine the Brady Bunch. Remember, he had 3 sons, she had 3 daughters. I forget the theme song. I should have been singing that to you. I had it in my mind that I was going to mention that as an analogy, but I didn't have the thought of singing to you the theme song until just right now. If you know the theme song, call us and we'll put you on the air. 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. You can sing the Brady Bunch theme song to all of us in Radio Land. So in the previous segment, I was talking to you about a man named Ron Herman who built a business, several businesses in the San Antonio community, whose net worth is thought to be in the tens of millions, at least as reported by the San Antonio Express News. And a lawsuit has been filed by his second wife and children from the second marriage against David, the son who's controlling these businesses, who was Ron Herman's biological son from his first marriage. So we have a second marriage, and we have a step-parent to David, and we have step-siblings. So how do you plan for that? Even if you think that everybody loves each other dearly. I met somebody one time. She said, we don't have steps in our family. They don't consider each other to be a step-parent relationship or step-sibling relationship. Even if you do feel that way, something that I've noticed over the past 2 decades is that when one of those parents dies, some of the glue that was holding all of those relationships together is less strong, or even fades, even dissolves, not by any intentional action of anyone in particular, just because that person's not around to enhance or flourish those relationships. And one thing I've noticed about blended families like the Brady Bunch is that most spouses want to take care of their surviving spouse financially. So if I'm gone, I want my spouse to be able to pay her bills. But here's a question that comes up sometimes. How much is enough for that spouse to pay the bills? Do you want that spouse to have the same standard of living? Do you think that that spouse should rely on their own retirement income or their own assets that they've built up over time? Do you want your biological children to have to wait until the surviving spouse dies in order to receive their inheritance? I've noticed that sometimes the person who thinks they're probably going to be their surviving spouse, which is usually the wife, because the statistics tell us that husbands usually die before their wives. The surviving spouse is scared to death of poverty or having a lower standard of living. They think, I need to have all of the assets at my disposal so that I don't have to beg for money. But do you want the biological children from the first marriage to receive something, even if the surviving spouse is going to receive something as well? Do you want each of them to receive something at the same time, or do you want some of the beneficiaries just to be waiting until that person dies? If the long second marriage and these children that were born from the second marriage produced long, strong relationships, do you want for those people to receive something at the same time or after everybody else? I've met some people who say they want all of the children, biological or stepchildren, to receive the same share equally. And so I like to find out from people, what's your philosophy about fairness? Do you believe that some people deserve more than others? Or do you think, is your philosophy more based on equal? Some people say fair isn't always equal and equal isn't always fair. I've noticed, here's another lesson, that most families want to avoid conflict and promote family harmony. And it's really hard to do that, avoid conflict and promote harmony, if nothing's in writing. And so, in my mind, if you say, well, this is what Mama told me, or this is what Daddy told me, in the courts we call that hearsay, because there's no proof. It's just something that you're saying that probably benefits you anyway. So there's a low value of trust there. And so here's a philosophy you might live by. If it's not in writing, it's a rumor, because you can't prove it. And written instructions are generally just more real to the beneficiaries because they can see it on paper, they can hold it, and it has more validity to them. And if those writings are done correctly, like by an attorney, those instructions should be legally enforceable. So you could take them to a judge and say, enforce my instructions. Or if you're deceased, then there will probably be somebody that wants those instructions to be enforced. Now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk to you about Texas community property law. If you're from out of town, there's only a handful of states that have community property laws. The other type of law is known as common law. It's more about the name on the title. But in Texas, what you earn or acquire after marriage is presumed to be one half owned by each spouse. What you owned before the marriage is presumed to be separate property. And so you can give your separate property to whoever you want upon death. You can give your one half of the community property to whoever you want upon death. You don't have to give it to your spouse, because your spouse is going to retain her one half interest in the community property as well. So that's Texas community property law. If you're from out of town, find an attorney to talk to you about what percentage of your assets are separate property and what part are community property. Upon death, it's the executor or successor trustee's job to determine which assets were community property and which assets were separate property. Sometimes it's necessary to get a judicial opinion about that. Well, somebody's calling in, wonder what they have a question about, wonder if it's about estate planning for second marriage, blended family types, or whether it's about the San Antonio mayor, or whether it's about the Texas school choice or Texas vouchers. So the reason I'm talking about blended families and estate planning is because I read this article in the newspaper about Ron Herman, who built a big business in San Antonio and is thought to have lots of assets. Well, we have a caller, and so I'm going to be interested to hear his perspective on things. But I'm talking about estate planning right now. If you don't know what estate planning is, maybe you should call an attorney and ask them if they focus on estate planning, last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans, because a lot of attorneys, they also do divorce or child custody or DWI or immigration. And I think it's important that you just find somebody that does this every day, because there's so many laws and regulations and court cases. It's hard for any one attorney to know every area of law. Attorneys have sort of focused on something like physicians have. You know, you have your ear, nose, and throat doctor, have your heart doctor, you have your internal organs doctor, you have your bone doctor, you have your urologist, you have your cancer doctor. And so attorneys are the same way. You just need to know what they focus on. And if they focus on the issues that you're having or the concerns or questions that you have, then that's probably somebody that you could talk to. So think about Carol, and I can't remember Mr. Brady's name. I'll probably think of it as soon as we get off the air. But think of Mr. and Mrs. Brady and imagine what would happen if Mr. Brady died and the Mrs. Brady survived and all of his biological kids survived and all of her biological kids survived. Would he want her to just have everything and get to decide who the final beneficiaries are? Because without any instructions or plans in place, whoever dies last gets to decide who gets everything. And that's when sometimes people accidentally get disinherited. And you probably don't want that for your family. Whatever you want for your family, You can make it happen if you plan in advance with an attorney using estate planning techniques. And just know that there's more strategies out there than you read about in the newspaper or that you see on Facebook. Your situation may be simple, it may be complicated, but it's something that you want to talk through with a professional, somebody that's been doing this for a couple of decades. Well, that's about all our time for today. I want to remind you, tomorrow, Sunday, April 20th at 4:30 in the afternoon, I'll be interviewing candidate for San Antonio Mayor Rolando Pablos and Adriana Rocha Garcia. If you've enjoyed today's show, please subscribe to the Talk Law Radio YouTube page. Click subscribe and share your favorite episodes with your family and friends, because this is where you discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. I'm Todd Marquardt with Talk Law Radio and Lexi Law Dog, who's taking a nap. We'll talk to you later.